Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality podcast, is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale and Clark Pro. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Today on Tips from Trestle, I'm joined by Brad Zorian. Brad is the Culinary Director for Providence Senior Living at their Providence Living of Maitland location in Maitland, Florida. He's a 20-plus year veteran of the hospitality industry, with 8 of those most recently in senior living. So, Brad, thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Oh, thanks for having me, Aaron. It's great.
Yeah. So, full disclosure, Brad and I do work together. I support Providence Senior Living with their food operations, and I've been working with Brad for, it's almost 2 years now, at least a year and a half. And so did want to talk to you more about your recent experience with the Florida Senior Living Association's Leadership Academy. We were at the conference just a couple of weeks ago where you graduated from the program. And so I'd love to kind of pick your brain about how you got involved, what your experience was, and just dive into all of that from the perspective of a chef in senior living, looking at growth and those opportunities.
Yeah, absolutely. It was a great opportunity. I was nominated by our Vice President of Operations, Damon Thomas, to join this academy. I actually got to travel to Tallahassee for our first session, which was great. We got to tour the Capitol, and I got to meet all the other students that were part of the academy, and it was nice. I was not the only culinary director. I had EDs in there, and business office managers, sales directors, so it was a group of people. It wasn't just all directed at the culinary.
Yeah. And the reason I wanted to talk to you about it is, from my vantage point, being in senior living as long as I have been, I feel like there's a lot of missed opportunity for operators to develop leaders that get into that executive director, regional director level operation from food service. There's such an opportunity, I think, with how much day to day has to be juggled with managing the staff and purchasing and the ins and outs of customer service and making residents happy and just the hustle and bustle of a kitchen. And so your perspective on why this program was so valuable, I think is important for the industry. Tell us a little bit about the structure. You told us a little bit about who all was involved, but what was that program like, and how did you benefit from the way it was put together?
Velma Knowles, who facilitated, basically put everything together. She had the agendas, and it was broken out into 3 in-person sessions as well as 3 online sessions with our group mentors. In the in-person sessions, we would all get together. We would do team building activities, but also we were working together and collaborating together just to, almost being one unit. And it's not one department versus another department. It's one department needs to work with every other department. And that was kind of one of the biggest takeaways, because in senior living, you have so many different departments. So you're nursing, you have your housekeeping, you have the culinary department, and they're all vital roles inside senior living. So within this academy, Velma kind of showed us that we need to be able to communicate better with other departments and, be able to lead them, not just in our own department. We got to, with being with the other directors that were in there from the other departments, they got to see what we experienced, but also we got to see what they experienced.
We talk about communication across departments being so important in senior living, but I think that added level, like you mentioned, of not just how can we communicate with them better, but how can we maybe lead employees in those departments? How can we be more of that leader of the community as opposed to just another department in the community? I think it's really invaluable. And I think there's a lot of opportunity for chefs and who hearing things from their team, but also seeing the bigger picture of the community, being able to better understand that and share what they're seeing and be able to communicate and lead those other departments from their vantage point.
Right. I mean, in senior living and being in the director role, we all have to wear different hats, different times of the day. Our agenda can change in very last minute. I mean, and our days can go sideways, and everything in senior living is our responsibility. And I mean, it's not just, okay, I got to worry about people eating today. It's not that. If something's going on in the wellness department or something's going on in housekeeping, we need to be able to communicate with them and be able to give them and the support that they need that they deserve to succeed, and not just for our own benefit, but the benefit of the community and the benefit of the resident. They are our top
Yeah.
priority. We work where they live, and we want to create the best day possible for them.
I think that perspective is so true, right? Like we talk about taking care of and serving our residents, but we still sometimes get in our silos of, well, I'm in the kitchen or I work in the dining room. So as long as the meal service is good and the food tastes great, like I've done my part for that resident satisfaction. But really it's 24/7 across the board. And we need to be that sounding board and open to hearing not just the good and the bad about our departments, but about the community. So we can definitely help improve those areas.
Absolutely. And I mean, and within the academy, we had our mentors, and there was three. There was Heidi Kukenbach, Wayne Tebow, which was mine, and then Mary Sue was the third. And I had Gwen, which she's a regional with another senior living company. But she took the time to work with us if we needed it one-on-one, if we were
Mhm.
struggling with something, because she's lived it. She's been in the industry for a long time as well. And she was somebody that you could fall back on. And with her leadership experience, it was something that, it was valuable. It was almost, you couldn't put a price tag on it.
I think that's something that senior living sometimes doesn't get enough of is we have a lot of operators that focus on leadership and then training and making sure that we know how to do the systems, we understand how to operate communities. We're starting to do a better job of developing leaders in the leadership pieces. I think that networking, the group coaching, mentoring, a lot of times those things get missed. And so I'm glad that you brought the mentoring piece up because in your experience, you've been a director, you've been an executive chef for a number of years. When you think about the leadership opportunities, the leadership development opportunity, the mentoring piece, I think, is so invaluable. And how does this compare to what you've seen or you've experienced in the past from that perspective?
Yeah, in the past, I came from a couple of different corporate places, and if you weren't performing, you were put out. It was, train, retrain, rehire. And, that was just never really my philosophy, because sometimes you would bring somebody in, maybe they weren't the right fit for the job, but they were a right fit for the company, but they just didn't find their niche. So you would try to, if they weren't working out maybe in your department, you'd maybe see, let's see where you work over here in this department. Not that I want to just push you off to the wayside, but let's put you over here, and then I'll still work with you on the side, and we can move you back into here. That's where we were able to go. We got to find somebody else here where we were, let's take them under our wing. We know that this person, they have a good heart, they have a good work ethic, they show up, they do what they need to do, but it's just, we need to really kind of dial them into the right position.
Yeah. And I think one of the things kind of thinking about how do the moving can we move someone to a better fit? We're trying to get a square peg to fit in the round hole. How can we find the square hole for that square peg? Right. And so working with and learning from the group that it's diverse, right? It's not just academy for chefs or food service. You mentioned it, executive directors, business office managers, resident engagement directors. talk a little bit about how having those different perspectives made the program function, or how it was different than what you maybe expected going in?
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of eMenu Choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing, and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, eMenu Choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction. eMenu Choice, transforming dining for senior living.
I mean, with trainings in the past, it was a lot to do with the culinary directors, and being in the room with the other directors in other departments, you got to see what they walk through in their shoes on a daily basis and what they got to deal with. And you also got to learn from them on how they dealt with some of their issues, and, how we can, from other departments, bring our knowledge to them, but also be able on the receiving side that we need to be able to take the criticism from them and not puff up and get all mad and that we're doing everything right. That, we know we don't do the absolute most perfect job or something like that, that they need to be able to come to us. And if they're, whether it's a director or if it's just another sales associate or a wellness associate, that, they can come to us, but then we have that knowledge and that experience that we can talk to them and be like, I really appreciate your criticism, and I fully accept it. So it just really, from dealing with all the other directors and seeing them and being able to talk with them and collaborate, it's really kind of brought a whole new light into the situation.
That collaboration piece we know it's so important when we're working in our communities, right? Because no one department can make a resident happy every day in any situation. When you think about the collaboration piece, was it learning how to better collaborate? Was it the working on projects with them? When you think about that, what do you think was your biggest takeaway on the collaboration front with this academy?
I think, to be honest with you, the biggest takeaway was working on the projects. And I guess really how to explain it would, we had our final project and we all had to just, even though it was kind of an independent project, but we still talked with each other and we met with each other in person and online, that we were able to kind of shoot around our ideas. Then, hey, we could change this. And then even at the final session, we got to even critique each other's final project and just, what would you do different? What did you really like about it? And there was no egos in the room. We were all academy students. And that's really kind of what I took away from it, is that, okay, he's an ED and I'm a culinary director, but we're in this academy and we're doing the same exact thing. And, there were no egos. We all really got along and we were able to communicate with each other.
That, like, breaking down the various levels, right? Because as much as we don't always want to say it out loud, right? You can go into a community and there's I don't want to call it a caste system. You can kind of feel like, all right, well, you got your executive director, and then a lot of times there's a business office manager, sales, marketing, and they're kind of that second tier. And then all the other directors kind of feel like they fall into that a third level, if you will. And not like that everywhere, but you can definitely, I think, in communities where they don't have the strongest of leadership or they haven't built a good culture, we can definitely get that. And so, and speaking of culture, right, you talked about the collaboration, you talked about like the level playing field in the academy. How could someone who is concerned about or really wants to focus on building a better culture, what kind of takeaways would you think working with an academy or taking some sort of course similar to the academy could benefit them in their communities or their operation.
I mean, and it's funny you bring it up because one of the subjects we talked about, one of the girls, she's the activities director, that her final project was on culture. And we got to really learn some of the different things. And we actually ended up going around the room talking about how they deal with culture in the community, not with just families, but also the associates, and how to build that better culture. And, just being able to bring new ideas to the table was, the takeaways away from that was what they do in one community, why can't that transfer over to another community? Put your own little stamp on it, however you want to do it. And just being able to learn and just see what other communities do, it's just kind of really, it was great. And I got to bring some of this back and talk with our community specialists and some of the stuff they were able to implement here now that, stuff that we weren't doing. And they were coming from the other directors. Some of these were in larger communities than what I'm in, and some were in the same size communities. And, if they're able to do it in a large community where they have 100, 200 plus employees, why can't that transfer down to a community where we have 50, 60 employees there on property?
And I think it's important for all directors in any community of any size to be looking and thinking about that bigger picture, right? Because if there's something broken in the bigger picture, it's eventually going to trickle down or cross over into your area, whether it's food or activities or sales and marketing. And so being able to, I guess, have that higher level vision of what it looks like, how it works, and how you can impact it can definitely have that winning kind of mindset around being successful. So as we wrap up here, Brad, if there was any advice you would give for other culinary directors or food service directors about an opportunity like the Florida Senior Living Leadership Academy or a program similar, what would you tell them to do and how to take advantage of something like that?
If given the opportunity, I would hop on it again. I think it's a great learning experience. It not only gives you the confidence and the knowledge to talk with other departments and other associates within other departments, but you get to take away the knowledge, and it also gives you the confidence and gives you kind of a little bit more training with being with the other people that are in the academy, that if you want to take that next step up, or you want to maybe even look at not just staying in your role, you want to maybe look at that junior ED, or look at maybe being a community specialist or a regional or an area director. It gives you, with that leadership, you get to broaden your horizons, and you get to, how to go in if you do go into another community or within, even if it's not your own, that you know how to go in, how to deal with different folks. So,
Yeah, I think that's great. And like I said in the past, like there's such a huge opportunity for food service directors and leaders to really take on the mantle of a bigger operational role and have a lot of success with it. So, well, Brad, I appreciate all your time. Thank you so much for sharing your experience about the Leadership Academy, and wish you the best of luck with using all those skills in your current role and growing. So thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
all right, thanks, Aaron. I really appreciate it, and hope to talk to you soon.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestle. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.